Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of AKP Sports Talk. As always, I'm Ari here with Korea. We both had a one-on-one day yesterday. So obviously, you can't, it's better than 0-2, but not 2-0. But we'll start off with you, Korea. What did you take away from your two plays yesterday?
Yeah, obviously, first we'll go to the first winner, and that was Gonzaga. Well, that was a great winner for me yesterday, pretty much yesterday morning. Like I said, they were pretty much just going to control this game. I knew this was going to be a great bounce back spot for them. They came out, they shot the ball well, and this is what I was expecting. This Gonzaga team, they have the talent to shoot the ball well, and they played a good Syracuse team, but the thing about the Syracuse team is that there are a lot of changes, and Gonzaga in the second half, they just opened it up. They had a pretty significant first half lead. They're up by 14, and then they pretty much just maintained that throughout the game, winning by 19. It was pretty much just the domination of their big men with Watson and Ike, both having double-doubles. Anton Watson, 12 and 13. Ike, 18 and 14. When you have those two controlling the boards, it was kind of an easy win for me. So I like Gonzaga. That was a great win. And then Tennessee, I'm getting absolutely killed on these spreads. If you would have, Tennessee had this game in the bag. They were up at halftime. Obviously Purdue in their second half momentum, they came back, and I saw the game, and I got to give credit where it's due. Foster Lawyer, I was not familiar with your game. You have finally showed up. This has been the first time we've been waiting for you to show up. Can you do it again? I don't know. But I definitely was unexpected to see, him actually show up. And obviously we knew Zach Edey was going to be there. He is pretty much the all consensus, like pretty much number one college basketball player right now, just in terms of his ability on the court. He had 23 and 10. Lawyers, 27 and 6. That was pretty much the biggest reason, as to why Purdue was kind of in this game. The big game from Lawyer, 7 of 18 from the field, 10 of 11 from the line. I mean, when you shoot 45 free throws, you're probably going to win. So Tennessee fouling way too much. Fouling was just out of control. They just couldn't keep up with the boards. Obviously, Edey in his size. I thought they were going to, at least try to make this a little more, it was competitive near the end, obviously, a 4-point game. So, tough on the spread. But, like I said, if Foster Lawyer just misses one of those, or any of those, like I said, Tennessee was up at this game at half. You probably would have thought Tennessee would at least covered, maybe would have won this game. Like I said, on the money line, a little sprinkle, but just come up just a bit short. But like I said, these early games are very, very loose. It's kind of testing the waters, trying to see how you are competitively. In Tennessee, I thought that they were a little bit better than Purdue, but maybe it's just me underestimating this Purdue team a little bit just because of how, we have seen them in the past. But, I'll take a one-on-one day. Obviously, Gonzaga, that was a sweat-free win, obviously, in the morning. And Tennessee, a very sweaty loss. But like I said, they were up at half, and they were controlling Edey for a little while. But, second half, Lawyer just came out, and, when you shoot 45 free throws, that's going to be a tough one. So one-on-one day, I'll take it. We'll move on to today. Ari, how did you do yesterday?
Yeah, one-on-one as well. We'll start off with the Kansas L, and basically Kevin McCullough is the only guy that showed up for Kansas in this game. Dickinson had 13 points, 5 turnovers. They had 18 turnovers as a team. And Marquette didn't even shoot well. I mean, they shot 6 of 25 from three. So if you told me that they shot that from three, I thought Kansas would have steamrolled them. But I mean, obviously, you're not going to win a game scoring 59 points against Marquette, no matter how they shoot from three. So I thought Kansas was a little bit deeper. Obviously, it's only one game, so maybe it's just one game. But, it's definitely a bit concerning for them I mean, some of the unforced turnovers I saw Dickinson have when he was doubled down low was not great. And then, obviously they need more than McCullough to step up as a shooter. So, we'll see if they can bounce back today against Tennessee. That should be an interesting game to see both teams how they respond from the loss yesterday. And then the Magic, they cruised over the Raptors. I talked about how good their defense is, and that was again that's what they showed in this one. They won 126-107. Just good balance across the board for the Magic. Scoring wise, and then defensively, they're still top 4 or 5 in terms of opponents in terms of how many points they allow per game. So they continue to be kind of a bit of a sneaky team, especially at home. But even bringing their defense on the road as well. So that'll be worth monitoring as the season progresses to see if they can kind of keep it up and maybe be a playoff team if they can keep up this defense.
Yeah, you mentioned Kansas. I was also on Kansas last night as well. I had them for the first half, as I mentioned, -2, and it was all Marquette throughout that game, as you mentioned. They just had no answer. Kansas could not figure out an offense for Hunter Dickinson inside. You mentioned all the turnovers, just very sloppy game from Kansas. You're not beating Marquette if you only scored 59, as you said. So they were down by 10.5. I already figured they were going to lose by at least 14. It was all Marquette this game. They came in with the right game plan to pretty much neutralize Dickinson. And, they pretty much exposed how you solve this Kansas offense. And it's just kind of neutralizing Dickinson inside, making him turn over the ball. 5 turnovers. That's the reason. I mean, total, they had 18 on the night. So we forced Kansas to turn over the ball a lot more. Then obviously it's going to be a long game. And then you mentioned the Magic at home. That's going to be a wagon for us as pretty much all season. It's been producing a lot of money. The Magic, one of the better defensive teams, as you mentioned, Ari, and at home in this spot. I did like him at -2. And look at that. Obviously had a clear win, obviously, yesterday. Won by double digits, against the Raptors. Raptors, they shot decent, but, obviously at home, it's really tough for this Magic team to really, let anyone come in and just at least dominate them, whether it's defensively or whatnot. So great game. Great to see you finish at least 1-1, especially with Kansas just not showing up at all yesterday. But we're going to get into today's, obviously, Wednesday's best bets, and we have a loaded slate today. But I'm going to go first, and I'm going to get into my first place. And obviously, all strictly college basketball. And we're going to get into my first game, and that's the Michigan and Memphis game in the battle for Atlantis. And I'm taking that over at 156.5 right now. Look, I think when you look at these two teams, you think of offense. Michigan, one of the highest scoring teams in the country right now. Obviously, they had that really bad loss to Long Beach State the other day. That was at home. They did let up 94 points. So it shows that, their offense wasn't preparing. Their offense wasn't there. And their offense was there, but their defense, has been a really big key struggle for this Michigan team all season. And I expect them to not really do well against a Memphis team that loves to score. The one thing I will say about Memphis is that they do have a slightly better defense than Michigan. So that's why, that line is, kind of growing and growing. But I do like that line on 156.5. I think that, when you look at these two coaches, Penny Hardaway and Juwan Howard, you look at the talent that they've built, throughout those programs. I like both of these teams today to go over. I don't like a side. I was looking at Memphis, but then, I hate betting, against betting for the better defensive team in this neutral site game. I think both teams, we're just going to see a high scoring game. So I like Memphis and Michigan over 156.5 today. And I have a 3-team parlay. I just think these teams are winning. I think that the lines are, in terms of, their spreads are a little too close. So I'm just taking them all on the money line. I'm taking Villanova, Florida, and Ole Miss all on the money line. That's plus 251 for all 3 right now. We start with Villanova. That game starts in about a couple hours now. I like Villanova in this bounce back spot. We talk about Nova and their bad loss, obviously, against Penn, but they bounced back. They got a big win against Maryland in that neutral site game. And obviously now they got to go play Texas Tech, one of the better defensive teams. But the thing about this Nova team is that they look so balanced on both sides of the ball, and how they've constructed themselves. They're one of the best 3-throw shooting teams in the country. They're at a team. They're shooting 86% almost, which is almost, I think, 83, which is almost unheard of. I mean, they're obviously Villanova, more of the better defensive team. Both of these teams, very defensive. The thing about Texas Tech is that they rely so much on their defense, is that they don't really have that much of an offense to make up for it. Villanova does. They have a bunch of two-way guys, with Justin Moore and TJ Bamba and, all the guys that, they have at their disposal. I really like Villanova just to flat out win. That line has been growing. I think it opened up at 2.5. Now it's going up to 3.5. So just give me Villanova to win on the money line. Now we're going to go to Florida, and I like them to win in the spot against Pitt. And, like I said, bounce back. Florida, better defensive team here. This is what I'm taking. Obviously, in a bounce back spot, they did have that tough loss against Virginia. That was the neutral site game. I like them to keep this. In fact, win this game. That line's been growing against Pitt team who I think is a little inflated right now, obviously 4-0, but when you look at their schedule, I mean, who have they played? They played NC-A&T, Binghamton, Florida Gulf Coast, and Jacksonville. Yeah, congratulations. Now you got to play Florida, one of the better defensive teams in the SEC. I think this line is for a reason, Florida minus 4.5. So I'm just going to take Florida on the money line to win. I like them. And then finally, let's wrap it up with Ole Miss. That game starts at about 12:30 Pacific. So in about 3 hours. And Ole Miss in this spot, I think, even though they do turn over, even though they don't, I say they turn over the ball a little bit. They're more obviously a better defensive team. And this is going to be a system all week almost, taking the better defensive team in neutral court situations. Those three teams are the better defensive team in all three matches. Ole Miss is better defensively against Temple, Florida is better defensively against Pitt, and Villanova is better defensively against – actually, you can kind of argue Villanova and A&M, but I think the way Villanova is better the way two-way, I like those three. So that's a plus 251 parlay. I didn't like them. I didn't like the spreads, and the money lines were too just to take them by themselves. And I think those are my free favorites to win today. So give me those: Villanova, Florida, and Ole Miss. I think Villanova, Florida, and Ole Miss all win. That's a plus 251 parlay. If you don't want to tail the parlay, I don't really do parlays that much, but if you do, if you want to avoid the parlay, my favorite out of those three is probably going to be Villanova on the spread. That's minus 3.5. As well. So if you do not like the parlay, my other lean would be Villanova minus 3.5 just on the spread, and then as well maybe Florida. But those are my plays today. Michigan and Memphis. I think it's a high-scoring game in the battle for Atlantis. And then we have 3 games, and we just need 3 teams to win. Villanova, Florida, Ole Miss, all on the money line. That's a plus 251 parlay on DraftKings. I think those are some great plays today, and a very, very loaded college basketball slate where we have 2 big games for the Maui Invitational between Purdue and Marquette for the championship, and Kansas and Tennessee earlier. And then also in the night we have Gonzaga and UCLA. So good nightcap, but loaded slate. These are my favorite plays. Give me Michigan, Memphis, and then all 3 on the money line in the parlay plus 251. Ari, I know we got a loaded slate today. What are you looking at? What are you targeting? What are your best bets for Wednesday?
Yeah, it's also a loaded NBA, so I think there's like 14 games on. So back to my 2 NBA plays, starting off with the Jazz. Coming off a 30-point loss to the Lakers. They play Portland, who's, again, I've faded, a number of times on here. I just like them in the bounce back spot here after, getting crushed by the Lakers. I think they don't have the injury report out yet, which is always tough with the NBA. So, if someone like Clarkson Markkanen's out, then this may change potentially. But at least for right now, I like Utah to cover the 2.5-point spread against Portland to bounce back after getting blown out by the Lakers last night, where, they're down by so much that even though it's a back-to-back, they're down by so much that the starters didn't play, that many minutes as much as they usually do. So I'm not too worried about the back-to-back there. And then going to the Rockets, they won 6 games in a row. Since they've lost 3 in a row, they've all been close to the Clippers, Lakers, and Warriors. So 3 playoff teams they've lost close games, 3 in a row. Another team I faded for a while is Memphis. You look at the injury report, and basically half the team is out at this point right now. So I like a bounce back spot here for the Rockets. I'm just sticking with the first half, cover 2.5 in the first half. Against Memphis at home tonight, break the 3-game losing streak. So I think that they win. I think the spread's I think it's 4.5. I didn't think they cover that. But I'm just doing the get in, get out here with the Rockets. First half minus 2.5. So 2.5 spreads, 1 full game, 1 first half. Utah full game, 2.5. For now, they don't have the injury report out yet for Utah, so that could change depending on. I think they're going to all play, but, we'll see. And then the Rockets covered 2.5 first half over Memphis.
Yeah, you mentioned our favorite system is fading Memphis all season and without John Moran. And you mentioned all the injuries piled up for the Memphis Grizzlies. So going back to your good old get out in the first half. So do like that Rockets first half minus 2.5, especially for the Rockets in this spot. I believe they're at home, if I'm not mistaken. So
Yeah,
and then you mentioned the full game spread at minus 4.5. I don't think the Rockets are 5 points better than the Grizzlies. So I do like that first half, just getting it out -2.5. And then the Jazz, I agree with you. You mentioned the Blazers as well. Not a serious team right now. They're just in the rebuild, after the whole Dame trade. And, you mentioned obviously all the injuries for this Grizzlies roster right now, but, we'll see how that affects everything right now. I think that line has definitely maybe slipped up a bit to 3. So maybe that's a sign, that the Jazz potentially win this game by 3 or more. But I like those plays as well. Ari, 2-2 day for you. I think that's a sweep for you. And then obviously back to mine, we may need a little luck on a parlay, but like I said, I do like Villanova as a solo play at -3.5 on the spread. I think that was -115. I last checked it, but these are my 3. I have Michigan and Memphis on the over, and then I have Villanova, Florida, and Ole Miss all on the money line on the parlay +251. I think that is a beautiful card, and we will be recapping this obviously all next week. Obviously, as we get into Thursday and Friday, we're going to take a little bit of a hiatus, obviously Thanksgiving holiday. So we're going to take a little bit of a break, but we will have all of these recapped on Monday here on our YouTube channel. And obviously you can find all of these plays posted down below on our Twitter, AKP Sports Talk. We will be posting all of these plays and more today and going into the weekend. But for this episode, that's going to do it. That's Ari. I'm Curry. We'll see you guys on Monday for the full recap. See you guys.